Drawing buildings as separate illustrations or a part of some game dev project can be tricky, especially if you don't have much experience with architectural drawing and you don't know where to start. Here, I want to tell you how to simplify this process by following several simple steps. My name is Lilia, and welcome to my channel. Earlier this year, I realized that my portfolio is incredibly character-based, and I wanted to dilute it a little bit with architectural artwork. My idea was to create something colorful, bright, and slightly cartoonish, something that can be easily found in a picture book for children. In order to simplify future color blocking for these houses, I've chosen 7 main colors from the proverb Richard of York gave a battle in vain. Richard for red, O for orange, York for yellow, gave green, battle blue, in indigo, and vain for violet. That was the start of my rainbow project. Here, I'll show you all the process of creating a greenhouse from scratch. After finishing the first building, I've decided to add for the next drawing some details that would demonstrate an occupation of its masters. So I drew a cottage, a tavern, a smokehouse, shoe shop, a carpet store, pharmacy, and a panetteria. Being armed with these initial ideas, I opened Pinterest and started my search for references and inspiration. Be careful at this place. It's easy to spend hours on research without noticing how time flies. When I gathered all the necessary images, it was time for me to switch to drawing. I always recommend drawing on a canvas of a big size. In this case, I used 3500 by 5000 pixels and 300 dpi for all the artworks in this series. Big canvases allow to work on details, avoiding pixelization, and create a high-quality prints later. As for brushes, I started line art with a simple flat brush from a standard Procreate library. This brush fits perfectly for sketching and painting. I usually switch to textured brush on late stages of work. Certainly, rare modern illustrations are drawn without any references. It is always beneficial to find some points to start your creative process with. Pinterest and Google Images are wonderful sources of inspiration. In the very beginning, I wanted to draw an outdoor bakery with a lot of fresh and yummy goodies on the shelves and a counter. So, I was looking for pictures of old-fashioned bakeries, wicker baskets, farmers market, old outdoor ovens, and bags of all sorts. As I wanted my panaderia to belong to some fantasy world, I was looking for stuff that was made with natural materials, such as wood, leather, maybe glass here and there. With all this in mind, I started to sketch. For this project, I made several very rough idea sketches and filled the general shapes with gray color, mostly to check if the silhouettes were working well, although I've changed it several times during the process. At some point, I found a perspective tool in Procreate, and it really made my work way easier. Being equipped with the perspective grid, I started to nail basic shapes of my future buildings. Normally, one can spend some more time on making a fine line art sketch here. That can be a good separate portfolio piece as well. But I've decided to skip this part and started painting above the messy lines. I wanted this project to be colorful and fully rendered, so it was no reason for me to do a proper and clean line here, although I think it could save me some time on the rendering phase. When I had a rough version of my drawing, I switched to color blocking phase. Main color for this illustration should be green. I made the tents, all the vegetation, and general tone of the image green. It made it easier for me to choose a main color for the outdoor oven, as I wanted it to be a color accent here. So I colored it in a bright red. As I was drawing a panaderia, the rest of my palette was filled with colors of old wooden shelves and all sorts of bread and fresh pastry. I took creamy white as a neutral color for the fabrics here and there. As my panaderia was an outdoor bakery, I wanted to add some interesting vegetation. It was a time I thought about cactus. When the palette was chosen and the main sketch was ready, I started to add volumes and slowly erase unnecessary lines. Most certainly, I've changed several moments from the initial sketch. For that reason, I prefer not to spend a lot of time on high-quality sketching. I change details quite often in my artworks, most of the time when I found a better reference, or if I see that original object doesn't match the whole work. Here I've changed the tents, lamps and the counter details. The image is close to final, and here I usually start to work with texture brushes to add interesting effects on surfaces and make them look slightly more realistic. Sweet little details here and there will force potential viewer to spend some more time observing your artwork, and surely it make it more memorable and cute. And here we have a final digital illustration of a greenhouse. I believe that following this simple sequence of actions will save you some time during your creative process. So here are the steps. The first one: idea, 2 or 3 sentences. Sketching, reference research, finalizing line art, choosing a color palette or color blocking, main render, textures and details, final polishing and uploading your artwork to portfolio and social media. I hope this video was helpful for you. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, hug that subscribe button and see you on my next one. Cheers!